Good morning, everyone, and thank y'all for joining us for our Beef Brunch news update on this morning, Monday, August 3rd. I hope that you've all been enjoying the slightly cooler weather over the last few weekends, or over the last weekend, excuse me. I wish it had been the last few weekends. With me this morning are Vince Desatel, Lee Falk, and Jason Holmes. I'm Ashley Edwards, and we are going to be bringing you just a few little updates over the weather, some hay fields, cattle markets, feedstuff markets, and a few other things this morning. So I'm going to turn it over to Lee. If you don't mind talking a little bit about the weather and the field updates here in North Louisiana.
Well, thank you, Ashley. Good morning, everyone. Glad to be with you guys. As Ashley stated, we've had a little break in the heat and the humidity over the last few days. We've also had moderate rainfall in some areas, moderate to heavy in some areas. It's been kind of hit and miss as far as who gets what and how much. I know the farther western you go in the state, picked up just a little more rain than over Jason's way. But I think most everyone has seen some rainfall. Pasture conditions in our neck of the woods up in northwest Louisiana are outstanding. If somebody's short of grass in our country, then it's because they're overgrazing. A lot of hay has been made. A lot of hay has gotten wet in the last week or so. But as the old folks say, if you're getting hay wet, that means you're getting moisture on your pasture to grow grass. So that's not a tremendous problem, I'd say. But that's what it's looking like up this way, Ashley.
All right, thank you. Vince, do you mind talking a little bit about Central and South Louisiana conditions, and also go ahead and go into a little bit of site preparation? I know we've talked a little bit about getting ready for ryegrass coming up, if you don't mind touching on that as well.
Yes, Ashley, thank you, and thank you all for having me this morning. Here in Central Louisiana, it's been a 3-week roller coaster ride as far as rainfall events. Here the last couple of 2 or 3 days, we've had some major rains in the area. Fortunately, a month or so ago, we had a dry spell that a lot of hay was made. A lot of hayfield preparation and work was able to be done. So we're in pretty good shape as far as amount of hay that's put up for the central part of the state and moving further south. But this week it looks like we're going to have a good weather week. We had varying amounts of rain in the area from 1 to 3 inches, some areas more. But I think where field conditions will allow, we'll get some hay made this week. Moving forward, as in with the northern part of the state. It even feels good this morning here on a Monday morning for August the 3rd. I was out at daylight and it was low humidity and real comfortable, and cattle out grazing comfortably. So it's been real good. But as I mentioned, being the first week in August, here we are, 4 to 6 weeks out before the first ryegrass is going to be sowed, and we site preparation, depending on your choice of preparation and planting method. There's been some burn down going out on some pastures that typically get conventionally tilled for planting ryegrass. So that's already in play with anticipation of planting in a month or 5 weeks or so. And it's time to make those decisions on some ryegrass intentions as far as what's going to be planted, how you're going to plant it. Contact your local seed reps. I know some of those have been calling around and doing some early seed bookings. Ryegrass is coming in on rail, hitting some of the dealers. So they're unloading ryegrass seed as we speak. So it's time to get those bookings in place and take advantage of a possible maybe price break. I'm not sure exactly where the price is going to be on seed this year. It was a little softer last year than it was the previous year. So we're hoping it stays about the same. We sure don't need any kind of spike in prices on input cost on anything. So it's time to make those decisions. You're going to do those last end of the year or end of the summer pasture herbicide treatments. A lot of those 2,4-D combo mixes with some of the other grass combinations that we use to control some of our Bahia grass and Bermuda fields and sort. There's a 6-week period on some of this residual effect on ryegrass seeds. So it's time to be thinking about those issues that you may be facing with this 6 week, roughly about a 6 week period going into planting some ryegrass. So it's about all I have, Ashley, for for this area. But as Lee said, we've got plenty of grass here in the central part of the state moving south. Again, if you're short on grass, you got too many cattle possibly grazing out. So make those considerations for culls. If cows are not bred moving into the fall season and calving season, those culls, cull cows are still bringing a pretty decent price to the stockyard. So with that being said, that's all I got.
All right, thank you. We were also talking a little bit this morning. I know Jason and I were out last week helping a producer calibrate his sprayer. Lee, you mentioned that you were doing that as well. Do you mind touching on just general sprayer calibration for herbicides and pesticides?
Yeah, Ashley. So this is kind of a uniform topic amongst the group. Something we do in Extension a pretty good bit. Yeah, I think it's one of the underutilized services we offer is calibrating sprayers, and we can definitely help you with that, whether it's just providing the information or actually coming out and trying to help you get everything set up, make sure everything's working right, and going into the calibration process. I'm not going to touch a lot on the calibration process today. I just want to stress the importance and a couple of tips here. Whenever you're talking about calibrating sprayers, you're wanting to make sure that you're putting out enough product to get the control that you're needing, but you're also not wanting to waste any money. You're wanting to hit that sweet spot, that recommended rate, that rate that you're looking for. And it's shocking sometimes. Whenever I go out and calibrate sprayers, I'll ask folks, "What do you think you're putting out? What's your gallons per acre?" And then they tell me, and we do the calculations, and it comes off way off. So that producer's either costing themselves a lot of money or not getting the effective control. But just a couple of little hints and tips when we're talking about calibration and spraying. With our insecticides, we're battling armyworms. Jason was mentioning that up his way, and we're definitely battling them over here. You want to have that gallons per acre of water up a little bit. On herbicides, we can trend down into the 15 gallons per acre sometime on some of these herbicides now, but on these insecticides, we want to be at that 20 gallons per acre if possible, and the only way to know that truly is by calibration. Vince and I were talking before we started recording, and he mentioned the importance of your pH in your water. pH in the water can definitely affect the quality of the kill you get and the effectiveness of that kill. So if you have that high pH water, that's 7+, you may want to look at getting some acidifying agents. You want to get that pH down in the 6 range if possible. So that's definitely something you need to keep in mind. If you've never tested your water, you may want to do that. Just kind of see where that pH comes out, and we can help you with that too if you need it. We're going to include a good link to an article on sprayer calibration, real simple process. It's going to be on our Beef Brunch website. Ashley's going to include that, a link to that website and everything on here. So if you have any more questions or anything, feel free to contact one of us. We'll definitely be willing to walk you through the process and help you as needed. Get your sprayer calibrated. Thank you, Ash.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I'm going to tag on to that just as a reminder. We did have Dr. Ron Strahan talking about weed control in our Beef Brunch webinar back in June. And then last month in July, we also had Dr. Ed Twidwell talking a little bit about those cool season forages. So you can always refer back to those as well. They are on our Beef Brunch website. As Lee said, I am going to put the link for that into the description on YouTube or in the podcast, depending on how you're listening to that. Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you. Will you let us know what the cattle markets and what the feedstuff markets are looking like, please?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And I just want to emphasize something that Vince said a while ago, because he said low humidity in August in the same sentence. So I'm sure that puts a little extra pep in your step whenever you can go out and you're not soaking wet by the time it's daylight. So it has been extremely nice. Getting to the markets for the weekend in July the 31st, in the 5-area feeding region, negotiated cash sales were 97 to 102. Which is still looking pretty good for those cash sales. Fed cattle futures moved higher due to that improvement in cash sales or cash prices. October futures 107, December 111, and February 114. So those futures prices are still looking very well for those fed cattle.
Jason,
500 pounds. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Do you have a PowerPoint to share? I didn't stop my screen share.
We're good.
Okay.
5 to 600 pound steers sold 138 to 149. That was steady to $1 lower than the previous week. So those classic cattle are still holding pretty steady. 7 to 800 pound feeder steers sold $1.32 to $1.37. We're still seeing a good bit of improvement in that classic cattle, so they're about $4 higher than the previous week. Those feeder cattle futures continue higher. August at 144, September and October at about $1 higher. So we are still seeing some fairly decent cattle prices across all classes of cattle. With this being the time of year that I know a lot of folks are booking feedstuffs for the coming winter months, I thought it would be a good time just to look at some of the feedstuffs that I track through the price and production summary. And I just wanted to make a note that 5 of the 8 feedstuffs that I track are currently trading lower than year-ago levels. So, and I've got a lot of friends of mine that, and I know Vince and Lee do as well, that grow a lot of grains, and this is certainly not good for them in terms of some of these lower prices. But for us in the livestock industry that are feeding a lot of those grains, it helps our bottom line. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, if you will, in terms of it does affect a lot of our friends out there, but at the same time it helps those livestock producers. So soybean meal, $292.85, and that's a ton, $292 a ton. So that's trading down almost $26 from year-ago level. DDGs, $113.50. That's trading down at $16.50 from year ago. Those DDGs had spiked up there a pretty good bit. They thought that there was going to be a good bit of shortage there, but it looks like that they're leveling back out. Cottonseed meal is trading up $25 at $245 a ton. Soybean hulls are trading even at $100. Rice bran is trading $32.50 down at $100 a ton. Whole cottonseed at $215. That's down $60 a ton. And corn is currently trading, and I follow the Pine Bluff markets. It's currently trading $3.29 a bushel, which is down 83 cents a bushel. So you can see there across a lot of those feedstuffs that we use, whether in pre-mixes or maybe we're mixing them ourselves in a home ration. You can see that it does look pretty good right now for those folks that are booking those feedstuffs. Thank you, Ashley.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And as we wrap up, the last thing that I want to mention is we are doing this in podcast form now. So we are on Google Podcast or Google Play, as well as Spotify and a couple of others. I will have those links below. We are still waiting to get final approval to be on Apple Podcasts. But once we get that up, we will let you know. We will continue, of course, to have our YouTube channel as well as our website. Again, both of those are going to be linked below as well. So with that, we hope that you have a great Monday and a great next couple of weeks. We will see y'all again in 2 weeks. Thank you.